going on, everyone? It's your boy Narukami back again with another video, but I guess this time a podcast. But we're doing it live this time instead of pre-recorded. And and with today, I have with me the very good homie. Go ahead and introduce yourself once again. I mean, he
Yep.
went by a different name uh, when we did the first podcast, but he is now has rebranded himself in the vein of a WWE style wrestler.
Eh,
So
so
go ahead and
so
introduce yourself real quick.
when we did the first episode of the podcast about 6 months ago, I had just started running the weekly tournament in Michigan, and as you know, because you knew me when I back in Yoiman, really hard to say. It's really hard to spell, and when you were trying, as you know for yourself, because now that you're playing in tournaments, obviously on a pretty large scale, and considering vlogs, your own brand matters. And it was hard to brand myself under a name that people couldn't remember, they couldn't say, they couldn't spell. It was just very difficult. So I finally moved over to KiraFGC, of course, FGC Fighting Game Community. Kira doesn't. I mean, I've gotten a few people. They were like, "Hey, yeah, Kira from that thing or this thing or whatever." No, it just sounded cool, so I went with it. And again, this was like shortly after we had the first podcast. But either way, thanks again for having me on again. And a lot to go over, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it was actually hard at times for us to not just talk about it before, because there's just so much stuff to really dig into,
definitely,
and not
definitely,
enough time.
definitely for sure. I mean, we were supposed to get together like what, like
Many
four,
times.
many, many times, and
This
so
is a
now
long in the making.
a long time in the making. So now we are able to finally self fulfill the prophecy of getting together the podcast. It's unfortunate the circumstances that we have to get it together under.
Hmm.
And we're going to get into what we're going to be talking to really in a couple of minutes. So it's definitely good to be back, and hopefully we can make this a little bit more regular
Oh
uh,
yeah, more consistent
and
for
more
sure. That's the
consistent
goal.
whenever things do happen, because there was a lot of stuff that happens. Yeah, we were supposed to get together for Capcom Cup, didn't happen. We were
Hmm.
supposed to get together for something else before that. I don't know
Oh, yeah,
what
there are a few things.
a few things.
Oh yeah, okay, we had Capcom Cup stuff, and well, that. See, that was in December, and we're now in March. So
Yeah, we were supposed
I,
to
I, I don't,
do a
I don't think
Capcom Cup.
anyone's. I think the thing is, nothing has reached this level of importance, right? Like the Capcom Cup stuff, it was very interesting to talk about and very fun, and the predictions would have been great. Obviously, how it turned out, I probably would have been wrong with how it turned out. But I don't think, in terms of like a needed level of discussion, I don't think anything has actually reached this level of importance that we had ever considered or had already talking about. I think
And
this is like the highest stakes we've ever, this is the most important. It has reached every single community, whether large or small. Every person is now aware of it, and it's interesting because, I mean, we talk about it a lot, and everyone else talks about it a lot.
yeah,
But what I haven't seen, and I think what's good that we're going to be doing, is talking about the effects it has on a specific community, and I don't think that particularly has been talked about enough. Like
yeah,
the actual effects rather than just like, oh, here's some coronavirus news. But I think it's important to get into like how it affected each respective community, and like that's the part people I haven't seen as much on, I guess.
yeah. And I think with you being a TO and me being a player, I think we could provide some very interesting perspectives on what's going on. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and segue into our first topic, which is actually the first thing that is on the title, which is the coronavirus and how it's been affecting different tournaments. I saw on Twitter a list of tournaments that have been canceled or have been postponed, and the list is has following. There was an event that was on February that was supposed to be held on February 29th of 2020, and that was a Tekken event that was supposed to be in Tokyo. That was canceled. I believe what is this Comfest? Kuwait.
It was called, yeah, the
Yeah,
Tekken Pro
Comfest.
Championship,
Okay.
Japan, Korea. Yep.
In Kuwait. That got postponed. Now this one is really interesting to me. The SNK World Championship Finals Japan Tour. I actually think that they actually started this last year. I think this is actually the finals. This thing got postponed, and so this is so we don't know when that's gonna happen. We had I believe this is probably a Smash event. I never heard of this. Emerald City 9. This was in
Yeah.
March. That got canceled, and that was in Seattle. Mortal Kombat 11. Now, this one in particular, there were some things I really didn't like how this was handled. Um,
Oh yeah.
they it was bad enough that they didn't tell people about the LCQ and whatnot, but they went ahead and canceled the LCQ the day before, and no live audience things. Okay, that's fine, but when you have the event already set up and then you just cancel it like a day before, knowing full well that what was going on or what's happening, um, you definitely it definitely kind of sucks. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's and they got a lot of heat for it, and I think they understand because again, when you had so many people coming over from such far away places, and a lot of people, I can't even imagine working all year for something like that, and then the first notification on my phone that I receive after getting off the flight is, "Hey, we're done. This is not happening." And yeah, I don't really get it too much. Well, okay, let me rephrase. I do understand why, but again, it really put into perspective like who had handled it well and who didn't. This seems, I don't know, the whole year with the Pro Tour for MK has been kind of weird to follow. They haven't been updating much on their website about the standings. Sometimes they fall behind. The schedule is kind of hard to follow, and the whole rules and everything was just a bit obscure for people who weren't the players or
yeah,
heavily invested. So, and I think that this happening kind of really wraps up that whole concern that I've been kind of dwelling on the last year. Because one of the things that not to get too sidetracked, but one of the
right,
things that I had said to one of my buddies is if you want your game to do well, start it off with an amazing Pro Tour.
right,
Because Street Fighter V has its fair share of problems, but so long as they continue to put in that level of like respect and effort into Pro Tour, like Capcom does, it's going to stay around for a very long time. So, and I think the idea of running a Pro Tour
yeah,
was there, but running them well actually seems very rare. I don't think the Arxis Pro Tour is being ran well. I don't think
facts,
the MK11 Pro Tour is being ran well.
definitely facts.
I don't. The Soul Calibur 6 Pro Tour we have yet to see anything about. Well, hopefully it does good. We'll have to wait and see.
And we have
I
the
think the Dragon Ball
Smash.
Fighters World Tour didn't be ran well. Keep in mind,
Yeah,
Fighters World Tour, their last tournament, their LCQ, and then going into no, not their LCQ, the last tournament for the last Dragon Ball, and then leading into the actual tournament was a 3 month break with no tournaments in between. And you know better than anybody how much the meta will shift in a game in 3 months, or how the meta will shift for tournament players in a span of 3 months. But anyway, the reason I'm mentioning all that is because this coronavirus stuff really put MK11's, I don't want to use the word incompetence, that seems kind of harsh, but it
I
really,
would go as far as say that like NetherRealm has. I would okay. Well, I'll say they
they're
dropped the
tone deaf,
they
lack of.
dropped the ball. We'll say that.
Mhm.
I won't call them
It,
incompetent. They definitely dropped the
it
ball on this on their pro
it was
tour.
scary, yeah, because it really showed and highlighted just how uninformed, or I mean, realistic. Truthfully, it was just terribly done, and it's interesting because I think this is going to be coronavirus stuff, especially with MK, how poorly they did it. I think coronavirus is going to really show us a lot of who is in tune with how things should work, right? Whether
Yeah,
tournaments are canceled really soon, really late, how they handle it. I think MK11, the Pro Tour, was done as a perfect example of what not to do, and that's now the basis of what you shouldn't do going with future with MK Pro Tour, if it even has a future, we don't know. With the Arxis Pro Tour, with every Pro Tour, use this as an example of what not to do when things like this happen. Because it was a
yeah,
virus this time. Who knows what it'll be next time? But yeah, it was definitely handled. It made me sad because
yeah.
seeing all the replies of people who are just getting off of flights and everything else.
Yeah, top with everything else going on. Also, I was looking at this list. It did, off the top of my head, it didn't mention that CPT event that got canceled. I think it was Brussels Challenge. Yeah, that's not mentioned on here.
It
Oh,
was.
okay.
It is. Yeah,
Actually,
missing
never
out.
mind. It
Is it on
is.
there?
It's in March. Yeah, never mind. Okay, yes.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, yeah.
Yep,
It's yeah.
canceled.
Never mind.
Gone.
Yeah, it canceled. Okay, so never. I got a little bit ahead of myself, but
And insult to injury, the same exact day. And by the way, really quick, shout outs to at Genicus, Genickus on Twitter. This is where we're getting all the information from. So credits to him
yeah,
for making this amazing chart that we're following. But again, insult to injury, the same weekend final round is canceled. It, yeah,
yeah,
I don't. you're a little bit older than me. You've been around a little bit
Yeah.
longer than I have, so I have to ask: has there been anything on this scale that you can recall, or anything even close, or anything similar, in terms of like the unity of the community, in terms of canceling events, postponing things over one thing? Has there ever been anything even close to this scale before in the community? Because I cannot
Let's
think of anything close.
let's see. I've been in the community close to 10 years, and
Hmm.
well, I know it sounds like a long time, but I started when I was in high school. So,
Yeah.
I, from my perspective, like from what I can see, I actually really didn't start getting heavy until maybe I think about when I was in college. So I didn't start heavy into the community until then. But during that time period, like I have never seen anything like what is going on. Like you said, like just looking at this list, you got CEO Dreamland 2020 not canceled, up in air. Final round had to cancel. You have what is this Vampire Arcadia? I don't know what that is. It got postponed. You have the world. Okay, so this is so the world champion grand finals. That was just an event in Tokyo that was supposed to be happening in February. But you have the
Hmm.
SNK world champion grand finals postponed. Fighter Spirit Korea postponed to July. Full Bloom 6
Yeah.
canceled. High Fly Melee. I believe this is a Melee tournament postponed. Pound canceled. Tokyo Tekken postponed. NorCal Regional April Annihilation canceled. The Mix Up postponed.
Just
Legacy
yeah.
2020 postponed. Naptown Clutch postponed. E3. Now this is really fighting game worthy, but like this is on the list. E3
Yeah.
canceled. Teppen Major and Taiwan canceled. Undefeated postponed. Collision postponed. And then to add to this list today, two events that I just heard about. One of them, both in Dallas, Acon 2020 has been canceled, and I believe DreamHack has also been canceled. DreamHack Dallas because they both fall in the same week, from what I've been hearing on Twitter. And so,
So one of the bigger tournaments actually that's ran very close to where I do my weekly is Michigan Masters, and that's also, I don't think I see that on this chart. Michigan Masters, one of the biggest ones in the state. That's also canceled as far as I'm aware. So, but yeah, it's just so much. And to be honest, it's there's a level of sadness I feel, but it's also, as weird as this is, I'm not sure if you felt this way. There's also a level of fascination that I have because I feel like I'm like me and you and everyone else is currently living in history right now. I think this is something that won't happen on this scale again for a very long time.
yeah,
So every time something is canceled, I'm just fascinated. I mean, I'm sad, of course, and I'm like, can't watch that. And every weekend, I dedicate my Saturdays and Sundays to either running something or watching something. So to see my Saturdays and Sundays now abruptly open up like this,
yeah,
it's
like
definitely sad, but I'm morbidly fascinated to see just how many things have been canceled because it just reestablishes this whole, this is something we're probably going to talk about 10 years. Me and you might be in a Discord call 5, 6, 7 years from now. Yo, you remember that trash 2020 season, man? Oh, man,
yeah,
that was the worst, where everything is gone. And we are now having to ask questions about even the most staple tournaments, right? Evo, for instance, just did not too long ago, was a month ago, they did their
yeah,
game reveal.
yeah.
We are coming up on the season of Evo. Even
Evo.
it gets getting sooner and
So
sooner. The game release was announced about a month ago.
yeah,
Obviously, they have some things. They got a store in plan. They had this Marvel vs. Capcom Invitational
yeah,
plan, which Justin Wong had committed to not going to many tournaments this year. He had made
yeah,
a tweet talking about how he doesn't feel comfortable going to much, so he's going to be staying indoors for the sake of his family.
yeah.
Which now brings on the question, and since he is one of the big winners of MVC2, I wonder if they're going to run that at Evo still, and even if Evo is going
Uh,
to be around.
it's not. It's
It's
not just that too. You're also looking at combo breaker potentially being affected. And
oh yeah,
my very own major Texas Showdown. This is our first year of being a premier event being canceled or being affected, and this is crazy. Like
short-lived
this is
good
crazy.
news for
This is
sure.
like when I first
Being a
heard
premiere.
about the news about Texas Showdown being a premiere, I was like, "Bro, we are in there." Like This is my time, man. I get to fight like the Japanese. I get to finally fight like Japanese players. I have not had a chance to play a Japanese player, man. I wanted to play some Japanese players. I wanted them to come
Oh
to
yeah,
Texas and play them.
some of the top guys over there.
Yeah, from the top guys over there, and I want to get a chance to play them. But now, bro, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what's gonna go on.
Well,
It's
thankfully, the one silver lining, right, and if there even is
yeah,
any, is this is now the best time for them, like, I mean, just financially, I suppose, or whatever how you want to look at it. It's probably the best time for them now being a two-part season, right? So before, obviously, Capcom Pro Tour was one season and
yeah,
your points throughout this year, and that made things very committal, right? I mean,
yeah,
doing poorly at one event could really, really harm you for the
yeah,
entirety of a season because I mean, with when you have one season of one leaderboard,
yeah,
upsets on those kind of mean more because there is no reset until the next season. But by that point, it's not really the same. You
yeah,
don't really care as much with previous season. So, however, the fact that we are now in a two-part season means committing to stuff isn't as like dire per
yeah.
se. You can afford to drop some stuff off. So, in my opinion, what we're probably going to see, right? In optimistically, here in my opinion is what could happen that would actually make things pretty intense. If the second half of CPT, if the virus stuff, if things are more settled down and that people feel comfortable bringing back larger scale events on that level, if that ends up being the case, then we are going to see the most intense, most competitive second half of the CPT season we had ever seen, and a lot will follow that, right? I mean,
Oh
if
yeah.
these players only have half of a season to do what a full season is what they should have done,
But
we're going to see a level of competition we had never seen before. So that it might be a silver lining to talk about.
I will say
How
this though. Um, yes and no, due to the fact that only 16 spots were available at those events. There's still 22 spots um, in these little local hero. They had what little local heroes or local legends or whatever it was called. There's still
yeah,
22 spots up for grab, and we don't
it's
know
true.
what that is going to entail. I mean, Capcom hasn't really said anything. I'm guessing a lot of it is because they're probably behind due to the fact of the coronavirus and stuff like that. And so like they haven't released any details about that. I do. It could be crazy as far as like the second half, but if this local thing is what I think it also could be, this can also be a good thing for the local community as well because it might invite more better players to come out to the local events or maybe the regional events and whatnot, so you get more
Oh yeah.
competition. Like it could be like this this could be pretty big for like smaller events or regionals and stuff, depending on what officially comes out from this local thing, and we don't know and we won't know anything. Or my best case, what they might do for the first half with the events they got canceled, they should not are making it up. They might run like maybe 4 or 5 LCQs that day or whatever to get those extra spots in there, or maybe they might
Oh
just
yeah.
do something else with those spots. I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do. Like, we don't know what they're gonna do
It's
because
just a shame that so much of a
yeah,
different system and so much of like it's so different and it's so new and
yeah,
it's not the only thing that took a huge leap, right? The Smash World Tour as well.
yeah.
A lot of these are such new and they're trying the first time and this was MK's first Pro Tour in 11. Maybe there's no I'm not
I
sure again
thought
if they're gonna have
they
another one
had
for
one
11,
for
but
this was their first pro core for Mortal Kombat, but they're not new to the Pro Tour scene. They did have one for
no,
Injustice,
they
with
did. Correct.
but this is actually their I believe this is their first attempt at actually putting together like a full season. Injustice was kind of weird. I don't exactly remember it. I'm not
Yeah, I don't
uh
think it was as committed like this one was.
I know they did have a finals, which Sonic Fox did win, and I believe Sonic Fox won and Scar placed second.
Yeah.
Or it was either Scar or Rewind. I think it was probably Rewind that placed second and Scar placed third. I think it was probably that probably was the order for that Injustice thing. Now that I think about it, because yeah, that was definitely it. Because Rewind's father was going through cancer. Rest in peace to him. It's unfortunate that his father did die due to his illness, but um, he so yeah, that definitely what happened, and
Yeah, it's just a shame
yeah,
that all these new things that they're trying, with again Street Fighter doing the whole second half of the season with the World Warrior local stuff and then the World Smash World Tour, and it all happens to fall on the time and date. Here's the thing for me, like, and this might just be me saying this because it's like because of everything going on.
Yeah.
But when I look at the new Smash World Tour and when I look at the Street Fighter's completely brand new system, and then I see Dragon Ball Fighter's gonna have a new season with a bunch of new characters, and Tekken's gonna remain that staple good scene, and with all that in mind, I was going to argue the fact that this might be the best year to be a fighting game fan that we've had when it comes to tournament spectating and the event of all that.
Yeah.
This might be would have been one of the best years for that in a long time. Because again, we have events like Texas Showdown, so I feel like the Street Fighter scene is more spread out with how well they're doing, like where they're placing their events, and
Yeah.
so many others. Again, the Smash World Tour, I keep mentioning it, is a huge thing for that particular scene because the one thing Smash players needed was structure, right? So
Yes.
with that being said, like it was in my opinion, there was a time before this all had gone down where I would sit here and debate against anybody and tell them that season 4 of Street Fighter 2020 was going to be the year for fighting game tournaments on a spectator level. This was
Oh
going to be the
man,
year
dude.
for that
Yeah.
because everything felt like it was bringing a new full force attitude to the table, and it was great because it wasn't just Street Fighter, right? Dragon Ball FighterZ was pulling solid numbers, and that Goichi Sun Fox rivalry was continuing to flourish. MK11 proved, despite with all the incompetence they had with the LCQ, it was an amazing spectator sport, pulling some pretty good numbers. The Smash World Tour, again, the first time ever by the people for the people. That's one of the most iconic things to happen in fighting game history. Again, you had the staple of Tekken and whatnot, and the brand new system that Street Fighter was going to bring along that we didn't know as much about yet. And
Yeah.
we had truly an amazing year on our hands. And it's it's unfortunate that the same year that I would argue it would be the best year for fighting game tournaments, it happened to be the year that'll probably now go down as notoriously the worst year
Yeah,
for fighting game
definitely. I
tournaments.
was looking forward to everything that was going to happen, everything that was going to come with this season as a player. I was really looking to make my mark in this season. I was hoping to do well, but alternatively, this actually does give me time to prepare more as a player for other local things as well. Like, I mean, not local things, as for other events in the future, because it gives me time to study matchups and stuff. But like, I was just so excited to see all this stuff happening, and it's unfortunate to see this going on. But I did want to kind of shift from there and go to how this kind of affects the sort of the different groups in the fighting game community. Um, I'm gonna start like I'm gonna say I'm not gonna do this in the order of like least to most affected. I'm
Okay.
gonna say I'm gonna go out for the limb and say that this may or may not be true, but I think the streamers were probably going to be the least affected because their
Hmm.
job is mostly dealing with, streaming and providing content online through people. So there's no contact there. So they can still provide the content and still get people to watch their channel and stuff. In fact, this might actually increase stream watching because people can't go anywhere. I mean, like
There have been
yeah.
multiple cases of Xbox servers went down due to
Yeah,
overload because so many
yeah,
people are playing, and Fortnite has hit a brand new peak
yeah,
for the new season. There's been countless examples across everywhere. People were breaking record numbers because of this stuff.
yeah.
So I would
So,
agree. Streamers probably
yeah,
not. I would say streamers are one of the very few people positively affected by
yeah. This
all the
is
stuff going on.
like definitely a positive for them, and it's good. And I've kind of benefited a little bit from that too, because I am kind of a streamer now too. So I guess I had to pick up something while like I can't play like offline or anything like that. Or get together with
Yeah.
people, but it's definitely cool to see. Streamers are definitely getting that boost, and then, like you said, Xbox is shut down, and um, unfortunately, PlayStation is still up. But unfortunately, I would think they would be the first one to actually crash. And so, like, yeah,
Yeah.
streamers, I don't think they're going to be affected. Because you're just gonna stay in, you're gonna order your food or whatnot from DoorDash, which is what they're encouraging you to do, and people are being locked down for everything. They just issued a mandate in my city, Houston. They locked down bars, restaurants, and other bars and restaurants. I'm not sure about movie theaters and gyms, but I know in certain
Yeah.
cities, movie theaters and gyms have been shut down. But I was just watching the local news earlier, and they shut down bars and restaurants, and I think a third thing,
Yeah.
but I can't exactly remember exactly what it is off the top of my head. So, like I said, no one's going anywhere. Um, Unless you're just gonna sit outside and chill outside. So the best thing you're probably gonna do is just sit in, get them max CPMS, get people coming to the stream. Um,
Yeah.
the second most group, unless I think this is gonna affect is the players. Now, unless now this one is kind of a little bit iffy to me, right? I thought okay about me either switching with this between the players and the TOs, and the reason why I say that is because it all depends on the player, right?
Yeah.
I would say this: if your job, if that's all your job is, right, is just to play Street Fighter or play Smash or whatever, and you make your money from tournament winnings, this right here, I think interchangeably, if that's just your job, it's just to do that. You can interchange kind of both and TOs, or they're both kind of on the same level as
Yeah.
far as of who this is going to hit. But if you're a player and the tournament thing is, you're still heavy in the tournament thing, but you still have your side hustle with the the content creation and stuff thing, which is what most FGC players do not have. We're definitely lacking behind it. I wouldn't know about the Smash scene. You know more about
So
that than I
yeah.
do. As far as their content creators, I do know that Zero is on the grind, but he's not a tournament player. So
Yeah. So I actually got a pretty interesting take on that. Um, so when comparing like players to tournament organizers, allow me to pitch you a certain thought, right? So there was a Call of Duty player, Scumpy, who was
yeah,
asked
Stumpy.
recently. Yeah, he was asked recently, and again, I'm gonna tie this in, I promise.
Okay.
So he was asked recently, what can I do to get more views? And he said there really were just two or three ways that you can be a popular streamer on this platform. First way is to provide your own new unique thing that no one else does.
Yeah.
Straight up, okay? Whether it be a certain game, a certain this, or the other, whatever it is, a brand new gimmick. Like Dr. Disrespect was a gimmick that no one had done
Yeah.
before, and he
Yeah.
quickly rises to the top for that reason. The second reason would be to just be funny, entertaining, and all that, and let it naturally come in as time went on.
Right.
Okay, let people naturally funnel into the stream as time went on because they found out you were an entertaining person that could keep their interest. That was number two.
Yeah.
He said, third and most importantly, be a professional at any particular game.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to whether or not TOs or players, who is more affected? I would say TOs are a lot more heavily affected.
Okay.
Not trying to be biased, but the reason why is because I would say oftentimes those top players who end up making that money, that it's their job, they oftentimes have the backup plan. Like as you've seen, Punk has been pulling about 12 to 1300 viewers and
Oh
about a
yeah,
few
yeah,
hundred
yeah,
subs
yeah,
per
yeah,
stream.
yeah.
I feel like the top guys who end up having this as their job do have a backup plan in the form of streaming. I've yet to see any extremely top level guy not pull pretty impressive numbers, at
Right.
least in Street Fighter.
Yeah,
At
yeah.
least in Street
I'm
Fighter.
thinking about
So
yeah. You're right,
we
cause
have
you're
we have Daigo with pulling about 9,000 views. It's pretty
Daigo's
unreal.
pulling
Daigo pulls crazy.
almost 10,000
Yeah,
views. There was a one
he's
event.
pulling around
Awesome.
10,000. Yeah, you got Punk who's doing good now with a good amount of subs. Justin Wong is always streaming and doing good. And not to mention,
Item Item is
yeah,
pulling
Idom. I watched Idom yesterday.
whenever he
He was on
streams.
that 100.
Yeah.
He was on a 100 win streak. He had 2,000 views. He was on the 100 win streak. He was at 98 wins. I've been watching him up when he. I tuned in the stream when he had 40 wins.
Yeah.
And I watched him climb up all the way to 100, and I watched the viewer counters go up and up until it was in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
2000s. But point being, the players are pretty impacted.
Yeah.
But the TO thing is at every level, whether it be the largest level in the form of Mr. Wiz and CEO Jabali,
Yeah.
or on a pretty insignificantly small level,
Yeah.
like your 9-man weekly, they have undisputable bills to pay that I have, things that I have to deal with
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And there is no backup plan. People don't watch TOs for streams. They don't do this, that, or the
Yeah.
other, and they don't have as many opportunities because it's a pretty thankless job at times. So players are pretty at risk. There's no doubt there. But I would say that like that safety net and that kind of that backup plan they have if they're on that level ends up putting the players, and not again, this isn't ideal for
Yeah.
anybody. Everyone's affected
Yeah.
negatively, but for that
It
reason, I
is
think
slightly
TOs are in
better.
a
Yeah.
very interesting spot because I mean, again, to kind of give you this perspective from the TO
Yeah.
side, I had just talked to the venue owner, the
Yeah.
guy who runs the venue that I run my tournament in, and he says, "Hey,
Yeah.
Michigan had just posted a new temporary law in place: no restaurants allowed."
Yeah.
He runs a
Mhm.
restaurant. I am now officially Smash Rush. This is the first time I'm mentioning this. I haven't even tweeted about it
Yeah.
yet. Smash Rush is now officially on hiatus.
Yeah.
Done for a while. Okay, for a few weeks. And the concern, because he's not getting paid any kind of relief from it,
Yeah.
this might be the permanent end for a very long time
I'll let
because he
NT
might
for
not
yeah.
reopen because he is going to be losing a lot of money. And here's the unfortunate thing,
Yeah.
right? To be just transparent with you,
Yeah.
I mean, just about every business that you're aware of is pretty in debt the first year or
Yeah.
two. So, and he's had the restaurant open for about 7, 8 months.
Yeah.
So now is a very bad time for places like that and for people like me because there's a lot of money that's needed from us, and there's now even fewer ways to earn it. Even before, when we were still running tournaments, because of the inconsistent number pool every
Right.
Saturday we would get, it was already a pretty iffy. We couldn't even determine where the money was going yet because we had no clue if it was going to be a $100 kind of night, an $800 kind of night, or somewhere in the middle. And sometimes it'd even be double digits only. And for that reason, there was no level of planning you could even afford to do because the number was so widely different. So, and that was before this stuff had all gone down. Now that the stuff has happened and gone down, there's the same people are asking for the same prices for things, but
Yeah.
the money is now just objectively coming in lesser increments, and just and ceasing altogether now that we have to cancel for the next few weeks due to obviously everything going on. So
Yeah.
that is my unique perspective a little bit on like how it's affected me, and I made a poll about it on Twitter what the
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
thinks. They think I should cancel
I saw the
for a
event.
while.
Yeah, I actually kind of like it's not gonna affect me, but I actually want to see what people were saying, so I actually did. I don't care. I just want to see the revolt
Yeah, yeah,
results, so I
yeah, you're
actually
good.
did that on it, and I was like, oh yeah, people are definitely saying yeah we should cancel. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
it seems,
yeah,
and the
yeah,
thing is, the players, and bless their hearts, they obviously are like, take it off, be safe and safe and safe. But unfortunately, it's like playing it extremely safe might be what stops it from being ran altogether for a very long
yeah.
time. So yeah, and this is again, I'm running, not to brag. This is my point is I'm running a pretty successful thing every
Yeah.
Saturday, and there are a lot of different tournaments being ran with just lesser amounts of players. So I truly worry for their stability if it's affecting me on this level, on this scale. I actually do have a bit of worry about the other guys. Maybe not the top tippy top guys that have been
Yeah.
doing this for a decade or two, but the guys like me that are running their own kind of rogue operation that's not necessarily a part of like the
Word
same
of
group of
and
people who run everything else.
you were
I
able
worry
to
about those guys because they might not. They also might be in a situation where they don't have a solid backup plan or any kind of stability. So
yeah. And thinking about it now, yeah, I think you're kind of right about that because I was trying to think off the top of my head. I think it was the only reason I was saying that is because I have never like you're right with like they have that option. It's just like most players really don't default to that option. Now you're starting to
yeah,
see kind of
you're
punk
right.
go towards that option. Like you look at a lot of the top players in America, they don't default to that option.
They don't.
Uh,
You're right.
um, but like you do have your players that are actually do that, like your Brian F's and your who else? He's really successful. His stream is really successful. That man,
He's entertaining.
yeah,
He's
he's
good at it.
entertaining.
He's
He's
good at the
entertaining.
game, and he's also good on the mic. Which he's a unique person who's mastered two of the three things. Again with the scum stuff, be entertaining
Yeah,
and funny, and also be good at something. He has both. He has two of the three, which very few people on this platform being Twitch or YouTube streaming have. So when you do have both on the level that he has both, it's a very it's no surprise that he's figured out some recipe for multiple
success. Yeah,
hundreds of viewers every
and
stream.
like he like
That makes sense.
and the stuff that he's doing now. I don't know if you saw his latest video with the money matching the streamers for subs. That was really cool. So now he's innovating in the content creating game, and it's definitely going to give him a lot more views. My homie was actually a part of that, Mr. Madgear. Uh,
Yep.
I would like to get your opinion on this. Since you're a TO, and we
Yep.
say about like streaming and stuff like that. I think um, so. I think Spooky might be a. I know he's a streamer, but I think at one point he was a tournament organizer as well too, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah.
um, what do you think about like TOers sort of moving towards that hybrid of being streamers slash organizers? Cause like my homie Mad Gear, he's our local tournament organizer, but he's also a streamer now, and he's also starting to pull in views and whatnot. And so
Yeah.
he has a platform outside of TOing. So if stuff like this does happen, he still has that
Yeah.
the
So
support. So like I want to kind of get your thoughts about that with you being a TO. What do you actually think about that idea?
that kind of gets back to a lot of where the weird expenses that you didn't really predict, initially in the beginning, but
Yep.
as they come along and they kind of happen, you're like, huh, these are things I didn't take into account. Again, to the streamer thing, I'll wrap around to that. A good example of that is commentary,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I need two commentators, and I have had people come up and tell me, hey, these two guys on the mic right now, I know you have an open couch system, which is anyone can hop on the couch and commentate so long as there's a spot
Yeah.
on the couch open, just for the sake of having people talking rather
Yeah.
than no one. That's the system I run in place, but clearly there are times when people come up to me and say, hey, they don't know what they're talking about. It's not very good. Sometimes people actually have the stream muted because the commentary is so bad. So,
Yeah.
and that's an example of an expense I didn't have to imagine myself considering,
Yeah.
huh? Thankfully, I was brainstorming ideas of like maybe we can get them free food, they commentate, the good guys and all that. But one of those expenses that I didn't expect to be so hefty was streamers, right? So
Yeah.
again, I have my own streamer. His name is Larry,
Yeah.
Almighty LPZ. Very great guy. We were gonna watch the Fighters World Tour together, but we
Mhm.
canceled because we were
Yeah.
busy. And he's a great guy. He's a friend of mine. I would consider him so. But there's a level of worry there for me because the thing is, the big thing to remember, as I've said earlier, to kind of get back to that, the amount of money you make is always going to differ, but the cost of these people is never going to change. That is
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
going to be a stable price. So you might only make $90 that day compared to the 300 you were expecting.
Yeah.
However, the price of my streamer, I'm not going to say, but the price of my streamer, Larry, is not going to change no matter what. And actually, he recently gotten a raise as well because we've been doing well, and
Yeah.
that can't afford to be lowered anymore. So one of those things is concerns is again when you have certain expenses like that don't budge, you almost want to undertake this like I'll just do it all and then I don't gotta pay
Yeah.
anybody. And I've had that temptation before. But the important thing I realized is this is a very, very stressful thing to do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who just don't want to do the research and will ask you questions that they should already have the answers to, which again,
Right.
no offense, but
Yeah.
if you
It's
get 20,
people.
30
Yeah.
DMs in a day about like where's the bracket, for instance, you're
Yeah.
kind of like, it's on my bio.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. I feel you.
with how much stress there is with doing the TO stuff, there are levels of temptation to like again like I don't want to pay this kind of money to pay for these people, but again with how much anxiety and stress it just generally causes, and especially with the stuff going on, I'm actually more thankful than ever to have people that have helped me and supported me and were able to like take cover for me in certain areas, and people like Larry is a great example of
Yeah.
that, where I have made a system in place for my own personal mental sanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have made a system in place where I kind of let them. I run it when I'm there, but if
Yeah.
I'm not there, I have complete trust in the people running it, and I have a faith that it's going to be ran well. And again, that I've preached to them like, here, give me advice on stuff. I'm not going to, play the card of like I'm in power here. So we've developed a pretty democratic system. But what else to finally wrap to your question, if Spooky has the support of people to not cause him a lot more stress and all that, then I say go for it because
Yeah.
it is saving money. And sometimes that money is really
Yeah.
hard to shovel away from you when you don't have much to give and you've done a whole day of hard work and you only get, whatever because you're paying them. That money can be very hard to let go of because it's a very limited amount and most of it's going to somebody else, right? Again, in the case of a streamer.
Yeah.
So that's how it works for me. But I think a lot of it's acknowledging like what you can afford to do for yourself because as a TO, you're like the sky's the limit. So sometimes you get really caught up in certain ideas and ways to upgrade things and how to improve and stuff. And a lot of those ideas put extra strain, extra time, and extra thought onto the TO. So I've learned to put myself in a situation where can I afford to do this upgrade for my own health and sanity and sake? And surprisingly, I've been answering that, a lot of times that question has saved me for some making some overcommittal decisions,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
getting rid of the streamer.
yeah,
Example would be
yeah,
example of something I could figure out,
yeah,
but would not do me any good mentally because it just adds so much to like what
yeah.
I'd have
As
to do
yeah,
every
because you
Saturday.
have to make sure the stream is running. You have to make sure the bit rate's fine.
Exactly.
Even me when
There's
I
a lot of
yeah
things he has to adjust
yeah
mid-game
yeah
as well, and heaven forbid the
the
upgrades he has to make on his equipment, which he brings in, half a dozen lights and 4 or 5 cameras and multiple
oh yeah. So
monitors, and
you're
of
definitely
course
gonna
the
have to
Elgato and that,
do
and
all
just
that.
one of those things break. I feel like every single piece of equipment's about 40, 50, $60. So, with I mean, with that in mind, But yeah, that'd be my take. It would be figure out what you're capable of, and then upgrade your stuff within that
Yeah,
honest, transparent level of capability, and don't try to go outside of that because if you overexert yourself and you do too much, it's going to reflect on the product, and you're not going to feel like you've upgraded anything really.
right.
So
And yeah,
yeah,
okay. So yeah, the cutting it out because when I'm looking at the expenses, right? For tournament organizer, I don't know exactly what's going on, but we kind of got a little glimpse of what happened or what's going on as far as like, the expenses of what it costs to run a major and whatnot. When you had Jabali, an
yeah,
individual who has never really, publicly made expenses. He's asking for donations because he had what 1,000 people pull out, and so now he's saying, yeah, look, this is what everything would have cost, blah blah blah. This is with this, and so you kind of see it now, like, man, yeah, it's definitely a lot of work and a lot of money to run a tournament as well. And so, I mean, you definitely do want to support your TOs, like, and it's good to see the community come together and actually finance Bailey. But with another thing I do want to mention is that final round had to cancel, and they were offering refunds. It was what, up to 43%. Uh, People were donating to Jabali, but some people were mad that they couldn't get their full refund back from final round. And I'm like, dude, man, I'm like, I understand that, like, as a player, like, someone offers a service, or you have that money, right? And you pay for it, and someone offers a service and they can't provide it. Yeah, you normally want your money back, but you have to understand the situation and what's happened. It's like this is something that, like, out of control, like, and this is something that's out of our control, so we can't really do anything about it. And so, events have to
yeah,
cancel, and
yeah,
him offering you, the refund. I mean, he couldn't have did that in the first, like, even offering you 43%, but he's saying, hey man, we still need to cover this. People are like, nah man, I want my full refund. It's like, nah bro, like, you have to think about it. Like, if you want your tournaments, right, you want this tournament to be around. And final round has had some problems, like, in the past, issues. I remember too, I went 4 years ago, and they had just a complete mess of a tournament. It was over 1,000 people, right? There was not enough space, not enough venue space, and places were crowded. The place was crowded. As I'm still getting over that impression of final round that I had 4 years ago. And since then, I have never been back because of that oppression.
mm,
Impression that I first got. And
yeah,
I was thinking about going, this year, even last year, but I know because some people said it's gotten better, so I said, okay, I'll go back and support. But with him not being able to make money now from the event because of they had to completely cancel it, and people, it just sucks to see people be like, I want all my money back, but like, yeah, I do understand, but it really sucks. And as a player, like, players should just be like, you know what, that money was going to be gone anyway. When you register for the tournament, right? That money is already pulled out of your account. So the time you registered, that money was already pulled out of your account. So it's already gone. No, you just let the man have it, man. Like, let,
yeah.
just
Uh,
let
one of the
the man have the
one of
money.
the one of the key differences that I don't think people really know about enough is the difference between a TO and an EO, right? A TO is a tournament organizer, and that is what I am. I run a certain tournament, like the Smash Rush Weekly or the Smash Rush Monthly. I simply give you a time, blah blah blah. You show up to the tournament. There you go. tournament organizer. It's very simple. I mean, you can have multiple tournament organizers to relieve the load. That's what I do, of course. I have my assistants with me, and that is what I am as a tournament organizer. There is a step above that, and that is an event organizer. Okay, a tournament organizer is often restricted to one or two or a few games and a certain day and whatnot. An event organizer is somebody who runs an entire event and pretty much oversees many dozens of small operations, but oftentimes those decisions might trickle down into other people. So a good example of an event organizer would be Jabali. Okay, that is
Okay.
somebody who oversees a lot of smaller things that go on, and you might have known like Nothing XS on Twitter is the tournament organizer for Evo,
Yeah.
but the event organizer is Mr. Wiz because that's a different
Okay.
level of decisions, right? The EO in a way is just kind of the overseer. They do a lot of the stuff, but and when it comes to specific bracket running, for instance, and things like that, running a bracket, like running Pool B of Street Fighter Five, for instance, that is left up to many of the one of the many tournament organizers. The event organizer, though, is the guy who does like the general stuff and the big picture stuff of the tournament. So when it comes to the important reason to remember this difference is tournament organizers who run their own event, like I do with the weekly. It affects us, but the people who are truthfully most affected by this stuff are event organizers because those are the people getting hit by $70,000 price tags from hotels they didn't rent out, right? As you saw, Jabili had
Yeah.
posted
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
price of his hotel that they wanted to charge him, and it was dozens and dozens of thousands of dollars. I don't recall the exact number. It was between 50 and 70K. It was a pretty absurd number of money that he owed them due to Dreamland and like the effects
Yeah.
of Dreamland.
Dreamland.
So with that being said,
And
event organizers are everywhere. You're going to start seeing, from my understanding, right, and it's a
yeah.
pretty in-depth understanding because of the experience that I've been under. This will certainly, most certainly, not be the last time you see charities, requests for money, things along those lines. And honestly, in my opinion, Final Round did it the best because I don't think Jabez is going to get the amount he needs just from donations alone. So I got to give props to the whole get your some of your money back, but not all of it, because we need to survive.
Yeah.
That's important. But if any of these events continue to want to run on any kind of large scale, one that deserves an EO, for instance, then you're going to. This would not. I bet my money this won't be the last time you're going to see talks of money and how this is going to be impossible to make it work. Because if you remember, the Hado, who is the event organizer for Combo
Yeah.
Breaker, was actually struggling to find the proper venue and whatnot for the longest time last few months.
Yeah.
And even then, he was telling people, "Hey guys, I'm so sorry, but I need to raise the venue fee once again
Yeah.
because this event venue, it's just not doable under the current amount and whatever else. It's too expensive. I need to raise the. I've done the math. It needs to go up." With that being said, they had already experienced a certain level of money troubles in that respect. I mean, again, if Combo Breaker can feel it, just about anybody can feel it. So we were already event organizers everywhere. We're already experiencing a great financial stress with this stuff. So with that in mind, with my
Yeah.
knowledge of just how financially out of hand this stuff can
Yeah.
get when you start adding up all the expenses involved, when you do all of that and you look back at it, I won't be surprised. I'm not going to bet any kind of money. I'm going to take back that phrase. I don't want to bet any money on it per
Yeah.
se, but I won't be surprised. That's what I'm going to go with. Not as committal. I won't be as surprised if I start seeing other events on similar levels of entrance amounts, asking for money or taking cut of your refund and things like that. I
Yeah.
doubt I doubt we've seen the last of that.
I wouldn't be
So
surprised either because um, um, uh, we won't be having, from what I can tell, through the actual website for the virus, um, they don't. They're recommending that events of 50 or more people be put on hold for the next 8
hmm
weeks, and so that puts us at in a May time frame. Um, in I'm not sure when Texas Showdown is, and the exact same time frame it would be is May 11th. May 11th. That's the recommended quote unquote time frame. So
yeah.
let me see exactly when Texas Showdown is supposed to be in 2020. I know it's in May. Okay, so May the 2nd through the 3rd. So we're looking at a potential, man, my own major being affected due to the recommended for the through the website, but
Yeah.
we don't know. Things could change. Things could get better. So
I'm sorry, I don't remember. Has there been any commitments to Texas Showdown yet in terms of have they said anything? Have they considered anything?
I'm following the
Um,
Twitter. They said they're following the situation and they're
okay.
monitoring the
You know
situation.
what's very interesting about that?
Yeah.
We're having this talk today, and very interesting. Have you been following Ono's Twitter? Yoshinori Ono?
Yeah, I've seen some of his tweets
So
recently.
I think that's important because truth, we're making this podcast as of March 16th,
Yeah.
Monday. Literally, at any point, as soon as today, tomorrow, next week, that the Capcom Pro Tour might be done for good. I mean, I don't know, not good for the rest of the season because if you've been seeing his Twitter, right, he has been really going back and forth. He says, guys, it's not looking good. I don't really know what to do. It's looking bad. I'm gonna have some talks with people. He's already kind of discussing. He's going through the steps needed to cancel the season, and we're seeing him debate himself live. And he loves the Pro Tour and everything else. So
Yeah.
he's looks like he's caving in a lot. And again, if you've been reading the tweets, he's been more and more
Yeah.
like accepting of like the situation and how it's probably going to be the end of this season for the season. But I just think, again, this is an example of we're in a very volatile time because as soon as tomorrow, some major guys could be out of the running. Right? We could see in the matter of weeks, even in the matter of months, we could see Evo make some big changes or
Yeah.
decisions. Right? We could see we could see the Capcom Pro Tour make some very tough decisions, right? We could see the Smash World Tour. I mean, the Smash World Tour is already pretty much canceled. There are no platinum or gold events taking place for quite a while.
Yeah.
As it stands, they'll only be doing silver events for the while, which are very low amounts of points. None that'll matter in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, it's a very volatile situation that again, as soon as tomorrow we could see some huge changes for some big players, right? And it just kind of puts into perspective just how ever changing, right? As far as we know, from the time we've started the podcast to
Yeah.
now, there could have already
Yeah.
been some important changes and
Yeah.
not even changes to stuff in terms of like things you've read, but there may have been big changes to tournaments that are like off like, off the record,
Yeah.
just between the people running those events specifically, you know, that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, very,
Yeah.
very interesting with all that stuff
Yeah.
going on as well, just how volatile everything is.
It's interesting, and I'm also really 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 kind of like, man, dang, this is gonna suck. I'm like, man, please don't cancel the CPT. Just let your boy play in the CPT, man. I've been waiting for this year, dog. You don't understand how long I've
Yeah,
been waiting for this year. And
I
to
feel
see
you.
it all, like to see it almost all go away, it's like it's like
Vanished.
vanish. It's like Thanos just came in and just like snapped away everything.
I think the very, very bizarre thing about it all is the speed at which it happened. Because there was a point where I'm like, okay, so what? I mean, we'll do we'll do the masks, we'll do the gloves, we'll do the elbow touching when the match is over, as in the form instead of a handshake or a fist bump. We'll do those things. Let's move along. And then in just days, in the matter of days, and there was one particular day this week where the NBA canceled, the NHL canceled, and just about
Yeah,
many
it'd be
tournaments. And there was like a 3 or 4 day period of this stuff about a week
yeah.
ago where everything of value that just about
It,
everyone cared for was
it's
canceled,
gone.
gone,
And now
vanished.
it's like bro, I don't know what I'm gonna have to do with myself now. Like now that like now that tournament's being canceled, this might also affect my SFL match tomorrow. I'm still not sure about that. And even though it's online,
Yeah.
with city regulations, we they're shutting down meetup places.
So can
We
you? This is important for your sake, okay?
Yeah.
So this is one of those things, and this is important because I've been meaning to ask you about this.
Yeah.
So the Street Fighter League, the amateur league, it's great for people like you, but I'll be honest. When it comes to the players, you guys are pretty informed about how all this
Yeah.
goes. But as we talked about in the very beginning, this has been absolutely, and again, I don't want to be harsh. I know you're a part
Yeah.
of it, and I have a lot of
Yeah.
love and respect for you, of course, and everything going on. But it's been terribly advertised and sponsored. It's extremely difficult to find information on. So if you could do this for me, right? Because I'm just gonna give you this perspective, right?
Okay.
From a spectator's perspective, which is someone like me, someone who's not involved personally,
Yeah.
it is extremely hard to find, and I'm still currently not knowledgeable on just how the system works in terms of like, I literally, here's what I know. I know there's an amateur league which consists of 5 players per state,
Yeah.
And I know you
Sit.
guys
Yeah.
get together to play,
Yeah.
and I know that it leads to something, but I'll be honest, with how horribly advertised and sponsored this whole thing has been as a player, or rather, I'm sorry, as your player and me as a spectator,
Yeah.
it is extremely difficult to find any information on it, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't really understand the algorithm at all.
So I'm gonna give a quick rundown of this really quick. So
Okay.
um, here's the reason why we're getting a lot of information is because of our TO. Shout outs to Linda. She's a wonderful TO, and we have a group chat. And she's as soon as she's getting the information, she's relaying it back to us as our players. And so our city is more well informed than most cities. I know there was a case where the Brooklyn TO, Brooklyn had to forfeit. This was when before we got to the championship round. Brooklyn had to forfeit a round because their TO didn't inform that they were supposed to be playing on Tuesday and every Tuesday, but our TO had already informed us to that the week prior. And so it was one of those things where the TO didn't communicate to the players. Now, what's been
Yeah.
going on is due to the fact that this is actually sponsored by Capcom, and it's sponsored by Capcom in partnership with Super League. So Super League has had stuff that they're trying to do and send to Capcom, but because of the virus and how it has, I don't know if Japan was what shut down for a month, and I still think they're trying to recover. Capcom has been behind on a lot of stuff, and so like Super League has to get the stuff approved before they actually start doing things, and so it looks like they're just starting to get things approved, but like now we're in the top four, and so because we were supposed to start official streaming by Super League last week, and they had the graphics and whatnot, but Capcom didn't get back to them in time, and so they just now put out a video explaining what, just basically recapping. They just recapped up to the top eight, but they still haven't gone beyond that. I mean, we've already played out the top eight. We're at the top four. We took care of NorCal, but they just now released a video 2 days ago explaining everything with Tasty Steve and Vicious. Yeah, so they just now putting out information, uh, and so they really kind of dropped the ball, but I can't really say. I mean, Capcom can be a little bit incompetent on certain things, but their esports stuff, they're normally good about this. And
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's
yeah,
the Capcom Pro Tour
yeah,
is the best esports fighting game thing
and
that's happened.
and this virus is definitely affecting that aspect. So that's why there hasn't been too much information on it or too much stuff being done about it. I mean, we were supposed to get jerseys. We still haven't gotten our jerseys yet. They asked for the size and whatnot. We still haven't gotten anything yet. So we're still playing, but now it might be affected again because New York is on shutdown. Because New York is on shutdown, the players can't meet up anywhere to play, and we don't know what we're going to do because our TO has allergies, and we normally meet up at her place, and so our situation is kind of whacked. So we don't know what we're gonna do. Maybe everybody might have to play from home, but like my internet's not. I get a lot of lag sometimes, and so I don't want to be playing someone from Brooklyn at home, and it be lagging. So we still haven't figured out what we're gonna do. We still don't know anything on what's going to happen. We don't know if they're gonna postpone our matches or not.
Yeah.
It's
It,
definitely
it's yeah,
yeah,
it's tough, man. It's not a situation that I mean, there are times when communication was already kind of so when it's like tested to this level, it's like, man, you
yeah.
know.
When
But for the quality's sake, we might want to get to this next thing here
yeah.
because this is it's a
Yeah,
lot. There's a lot to dig in with that
yeah.
one.
So moving on, I wanted to talk about this um, bannable offenses, and this kind of
Yeah.
ties into the SFL thing as well too. I'm gonna tell you a personal story about that in a little bit, but um,
Okay.
just over this past weekend, we had I think it was this past week we had an individual uh, be removed from Combo Breaker for one of his tweets. I don't know if you saw
I
that,
saw
guys.
that.
Yeah, the
I
Have
did.
Fun Net Play or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we had two people banned from CEO DreamHack. I mean, not CEO Dreamland because of their shenanigans, and so with those things kind of happening, um, and what do you kind of think is the fine line between that? Because those are two different situations. So, the first
Yeah.
situation, the individual, I guess, posted. Wait, hold on. I'm looking at my information.
Okay, yeah. Well, I can speak on it now because
Hold on.
I know what I
I'm
was gonna
looking at.
say.
I'm getting information from my TO right now about uh, SFL. SFL. Yeah, I'm getting information right now on what we're doing for so like as we speak. So I'm
Gotcha. You want me to speak on what you just said? Because I have my opinion. I know what I need to say.
okay. Yeah, go ahead and speak on what we were saying.
Okay, so again, this might be my inner TO being biased, but
Yeah.
when it comes to if I had a pizza party, if I had a pizza party, right, and I'm like, I want this person, this person, this person here. I don't want this person. I don't want this particular person, that fourth guy. I mean, again, when it comes to like the moral and whatever the reasons for it may be, you can or whatever. But when it is my product that I am selling to other
Yeah.
people, I at that point I am then given the right to decide what I want that product, who I want that product to go to. So, I think the big thing that players often get confused when referring to the TOs, like me or
Yeah.
the EO guys up there. So when referring to those, they often think that like the TOs need to follow some kind of moral code or some kind of code of like have a thinking of like what's appropriate and what's not and whatever else, and that's kind of like what they stand, that's what TOs think of. Nope, that is a common misconception. What it comes down to is this: it is their pizza party they're running, it is
Yeah.
their product, and as such they're not going to be the pinnacle or the moral peak or the pillar of what moral should be and what should and shouldn't be said. What it comes down to is if they don't want it, it's just not going to be there, and there's no room to argue whether or not the decision should have been made. The only argument you have is questioning whether or not that person's morals are in, like if, for instance, if I'm like with the Hado stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's his product, and there's literally no room for anybody to determine whether or not he should have banned that guy.
Yeah.
However, the argument, if you wanted to make an argument, your argument will be: are those two particular words truly offensive, or are they just slang or whatever else, or like whatever? That's the argument, but the
See,
argument should never be on the TO or the EO in question about what the decision they've made. Because again, when you're selling a product and you're selling a product that has advertisements and a certain way of thinking and doing things, and again, with how stressful these things are, I'll be honest, when you have a level of stress that Hado has, dealing with thousands of people, one person acting up like this, you almost just don't want to deal with it, you know? It
yeah.
seems kind of insignificant. It's like, listen, I gotta take care. I have to manage thousands of people. I have to pay so many people. Got TOs, streamers, advertisers. I got people yelling in my ear about different things, and I got events to run. I got awards to give out. I got crowds to please.
Yeah.
When you have all that level of scale, and you have that all being full onto one person, when you see a tweet like this, it's actually genuinely no longer worth it to discuss that person and give it the time of day, because truly
Yeah.
there just isn't the time. That's what it comes down to. And I think what it comes down to, the big thing is the level of quality you're running.
Yeah.
If you're running a 10-man person, you can probably afford to make every single person individually happy in their own respective ways and their ideals and everything else. But when you're running something on the scale of Combo Breaker, which is going to pull in 4 digits easily, right?
Yeah.
4 digits easily. When you are getting to that level, right? It's just not possible to appease everybody. So when it comes to someone so blatantly like disregarding like a set of like just clearly, I mean, regardless of what you think of those words and whatever else, when you have someone just kind of creating this hubbub for what is apparently no prompting or reason, because he just tweeted it, he wasn't replying to anybody,
Yeah.
he wasn't, when he just says it and you go in a combo breaker, at that point, it wasn't even worth it. And it just, you could tell the Hado knew it wasn't worth it because he was already processing that guy's refund, because this wasn't the time for a discussion to take place. This was just a decision made to have this person not come to the birthday party. That's all it was. And
Okay.
again, there you could argue about those words and what they mean, but there's just there's not going to be any change because it's just not that it's not important.
Yeah.
Okay, and that one person, it's not going to affect much, and especially with everything going on with this virus stuff, there just really isn't the time and the need and the care on his level to care about the individual, but opinions, as well as you don't want this to escalate and flourish,
Yeah.
because again, you see it, you don't say anything, and and then they're going to combo breaker, and now you're at risk of a tweet of someone saying, oh, this guy's going to combo breaker, look at these tweets he's made, what are we going to do about this at the Hado? And now all of a sudden it's so much more than it had to be. So sometimes, again, when you get on this level of entrance amounts, you just want to think to yourself, let me nip this in the bud here and now with this particular thing. Let me take care of this right here and now because heaven forbid I have to deal with any kind of fallout from this if I don't
Yeah.
take care of it here and now.
See,
And that's a big encouraging factor as to why you just want to just take care of it at that moment.
uh, this is my whole issue with like that. What the Jabali situation is completely different. I
Yeah, I was
that
referring to
that
just the
yeah
breaker
yeah just cause
situation.
I'm a right off the bat I'm just gonna say this like there is no excuse for an individual to come to a tournament and say that they have a virus that is spreadable and then say and then it be a joke. That's basically a quote. At that point, you're not you're creating panic and fear, and you can create an environment in which people can potentially harm themselves. So for if you're doing stuff like that, you are banned from life. There is no discussing that. Okay, okay, well, banned for life. Okay, you're banned. We'll just say that you're banned. I won't say for life
Yeah,
because people
yeah,
can change, and if it you know the history, you never know the history, and so we did have cases before people getting removed from events, but like yeah, that's basically what Jose is saying. That's basically yelling fire in a crowded area. So you deserve to be banned. Now this one, the situation with the Dark Code Hado is a little bit more tricky because like you said it's one of those things where it's like the only reason I can see him being banned is because of like what he said in the past and who he said it to. That's the only reason why I see him potentially being banned. But like since I'm part of SFL, I had an issue recently with one of my members of the team members who almost was potentially banned from an event or banned from SFL for what he was tweeting on Twitter. And so when I see stuff like that, I'm like, and now Capcom is starting to crack down on that. I'm like, well, crap. They're actually starting to look at what you're saying. But the problem I have with that is like, um, and you could potentially be banned for what you're saying. But the problem I have with that is there are guys that are still going to tournaments to this day, like that have said some of the most egregious stuff. Um, Stuff that like whatever that guy tweeted, it wasn't as bad as some of the stuff that some of the people are that are going to tournaments do. Like stuff people like Low Tier God. That guy said we just know that guy said a lot of stuff that shouldn't have been directed at it, and all the stuff he said was directed at individuals. So you're personally attacking an individual, and so he's still he's still yeah Derek, you know who I'm talking about. So he's still able to go to events, but someone says, "Oh, I don't know, this is gay or something like that." I don't know. Oh, I think we should ban them or something. Or someone says like like I guess I mean uh, I guess in other people cases someone tweets out the N word or something. They say, "Hey, that's my ninja" or something like that.
yeah,
And then people are like, that's offensive or whatever, or whatever. So like stuff like that, it gets kind of tricky because it's like where do you draw the line? It's like you have your golden boys that have like and a good example of that is also Sonic Fox. I'm a huge Sonic Fox fan, but that man has said some things, and I'm just like, that man has said something and has tweeted some things that should not even be on a public setting. But this man still goes.
yeah,
This man still
yeah. I don't
goes.
know.
Yeah, this man still, still goes to, still able to go to tournaments and stuff like that. If you're going to police people based on, I guess, saying things like that, or what that guy said, where it's not directed at an individual, it's not directed at a group, then you have to do it for everyone. I'm like, if that is the moral standard that you try to hold, like that you're trying to hold or try to keep for your event, like you said, it's your pizza party, right? But
Yeah,
and you decide who you want to invite, but you can't, say, oh, this person's not invited, but I'm gonna invite this person that said worse than what this person said.
that's true. I do think, again, this is one of those things in the Smash community. I think the word structure is very general
Yeah,
and it often refers to different things. Structure in the Smash community meant a system where like tournaments of points and
yeah,
stuff. I think the structure that everybody else could afford is a kind of a common ground when it comes to um, when it comes to like rules and what you should and shouldn't say. If we could,
Yeah.
the problem is I doubt all these big EO guys, all these big TO guys,
Yeah.
like the Hado and I doubt they all agree on the same thing. So it's
No,
hard because
they.
everyone has different rules,
Yeah, that's
and
what
you
I'm
kind of
like.
have to
It's like
appease different people, and it's a mess. But
it's like you can't
again,
like. In my opinion, the only reason I see him being banned is because of what he said in the past. Because I've seen that guy's Twitter and what he said to people or whatnot. So what he said in the past. So he has a history of, saying stupid stuff. And so I guess the Hado was like, you know what, this guy's canceled because of his history. So that's what I can. That's possibly the only reason I can see why he was banned. But it's like, well, what if someone says something and this is their first offense? Do you still take away their right to go to an event instead of saying, hey, giving them a warning? And so it's like we don't have a governing body, we don't have a structure. You don't know you don't know what you can and what you can't say, and so it's like I'm of the opinion like as long as you do something right that doesn't attack an individual, like I don't care what you say, right? Because when you're gathering together with so many different people, you're going to have so many people that have difference in opinions and different walks of life. You know, everybody that you come in contact with does not think the same way you do. So you got to learn to kind of accept, you know, a difference of opinion. Where it does get wrong, where when people begin to treat someone differently because, um, uh, you know, th- what they've been taught or what they learned, and so they actually begin to act out on their prejudice or whatnot. I don't care if you like me being I guess a quote unquote black man. Like I don't care if you think I'm like the N word or something. As long as you treat me correctly, I'm fine. Like if that's what you have in your head, bro, that's what you have in your head, and that's what you have to go home to at night. But like,
yeah,
um, when it becomes to where you're harassing people, I know there was an issue where, you know, this is really big in the Smash scene, like really big in the yeah. Derek Hughes makes up a really big point. He's saying that he could have tweeted it just on a bad day. That also could have happened as well too. So yeah, he's saying some things definitely hit differently. That is actually a really good, So that's another case. So it's like, well, dang, this could hit. So you could tweet something on the wrong day and be banned about, and be banned.
yeah. It again, it's just a lack of structure, and
Yeah,
the people in question are human as well,
yeah,
and you made the mistake,
yeah,
but I don't know. It's tough because you don't have rules in place, but I mean, to be completely honest, if speaking a certain way kind of aligns with that person's original views, they're probably going to be a little bit more tolerant, which is how I think Sonic Fox probably gets away with some of the
yeah,
things he says. However, I don't personally mind or any of the things he says per se.
yeah. I
But
heard.
I see what you mean.
Yeah,
Again, it's one of those things. It's weird because if he said it on a private account, for instance, he would have been going to Combo Breaker,
yeah, yeah,
right? I mean, so it's weird. I don't know. I'll tell you. I'll say this right now though. I think it definitely practices a level of like think before you finally hit the tweet button because
yeah,
there are always going to be consequences and stuff. And I mean, again, even if I don't agree with this or the other, is that a tweet that really needs to happen? Like, I've never
yeah,
ever in my
yeah,
entire existence on Twitter had the desire to make a tweet even close to something like that. I've never
yeah.
been like, I need to express my views on these two harsh words
Yeah, that's
to my
what I'm like.
32 followers. I've never, that's never happened to me before. And although I feel a little bad for the guy because it did seem a little harsh at the time,
Yeah,
because who knows how long the punishment will carry out for. At the same time, though, it's like you're on a public platform tweeting about very, very controversial stuff, and you're doing it in a pretty condescending manner by
yeah,
using them at the very end of your tweet.
yeah,
So, I mean, I don't know. So everything about it was weird. It was just the whole thing was handled
yeah.
improperly.
I think it was handled
I think
improperly for on both sides. Like I've
I think
never.
it's important to
Yeah, yeah,
create a
yeah, yeah,
discussion rather
yeah,
than just like kind of make a snarky one-off kind of
yeah.
reply.
Like
So you do that, and you're gonna get when you make a snarky one-off reply
yeah,
without really trying to promote any kind of conversation or positive change.
yeah,
When you do that, you're also going to get the exact level, that exact same vibe in the form of a
yeah,
reply, which he did got banned,
yeah.
right?
He's
So
like
he made a snarky reply, a snarky comment with nothing in mind,
yeah,
and he got a snarky reply in
yeah,
return. Like that. That's what he got that it. So that's what ended up happening. It's if he's like, hey, what about these words? We should have a discussion about that. I feel like that could have been a great thread that started a whole discussion, and maybe you could even dig into like maybe the potential uh what's the word? The potential backwards of it all when looking at Sonic Fox and all
Yeah,
that and whatever else and whatever else. But again, the way he said it was in a condescending way and it wasn't really promote. It seemed like he was there to ruffle feathers. It didn't
yeah,
feel like a tweet that he felt like and that's what it came down to. So getting that equal level of it's one of those things where in a utopia everyone should be great and kind to each other,
yeah,
but this was a fight fire with fire kind of
yeah.
situation, so I feel like it just kind of handled itself. So
I'm of the opinion like like I mean what he tweeted like I have never once thought to be like that, but like I'm scared because it's like, well, what if I say something right that like, cause it's like, what if I say something that Capcom doesn't like, and they'll be like, man, you know what, I'm gonna ban you, and I don't tweet out anything. I really don't tweet out any political opinions, like, cause I don't like. I stay away from a lot. I do have some political videos on my channel, but if you look at a lot of my political videos, I'm typically neutral tone, meaning you can't tell
yeah,
which way I'm going or which side of the fence I'm on, and I make that purposely clear because it doesn't matter. I try to be as unbiased as possible and just try to present a neutral opinion on everything, because like I look at it like this way: it doesn't matter what I have. Like my opinion doesn't matter on anything. It's more about creating a discussion for people where we can come talk together about issues so we can get a lot of these issues solved out.
yeah,
Instead of actually having this side yelling at this side, and actually being adults, right? And so that's why I do those type of discussions to create, because it's very rarely that you have someone that actually is trying to be an adult in these type of like high profile situations, and so it leads to more polarizing opinions. So you have one side on the fence, one side on the
I'll
fence.
tell you this right
Yeah,
now, and this is an assumption, but I'm pretty confident in this. I think it's safe to say that this condescending, or I'm not gonna say kind of, this snarky tweet also happened to be about an opinion that the Hado definitely disagrees with as well.
yeah,
If it was a snarky opinion that he agreed with, he may have gotten some blowback, but he most certainly wouldn't have been banned from the
yeah.
event. The fact that it was an
Yeah,
opinion, it was the personal, like, oh, he was snarky about it, but it was also something that I know I don't agree with, which is like exactly what it was. It was this small push, and that was what he had needed to make that decision.
yeah. And like I said, it's probably one of those things he definitely, a view that he sort of subscribes to. So he kind of was like, you know what, this guy's done. But like sometimes, like I said, I tweet stuff, and like I mean, it's very rare that actually, like I said, I don't tweet any like personal opinion, but it's very scary that TLs are actually looking at your page and trying to decide, looking, and it's very, one day you could say something and you could just be gone from an event for no reason, and when you're just expressing a view, um, and it could be like, I mean, you could be expressing a view and it's not in a hateful way or anything like that, and they just be like, nah, you're gone. It's like, well, what? I didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like every event I've been to, I've always treated people the way they're supposed to. I've always talked to people. I've always had
yeah.
positive interaction with everyone. And so
Here and this is again. I pull up the chat because you said Derek was
yeah,
talking, and I can kind of expand on that,
yeah,
right, and kind of provide an analogy. He was talking about if you were in a room full of black people and you said the
yeah,
N word,
yeah,
you probably if it's a white person, of course.
yeah,
Here's the thing. Imagine two different scenarios there. Imagine the first scenario,
yeah,
you do exactly that. You pull up into a room, black people, and you just say it. You, just,
mm,
yell it, condescending,
yeah,
whatever. Not a good turnout. If you walked into the room and said, "Hey guys, why do you not like this particular word?"
yeah,
I feel like that would warrant an entirely different result.
yeah,
If it was an opening of a discussion, it was genuine curiosity, it was that. I feel like you're like, oh, hey guys, I don't really understand. Like, why are these things that you want? And if at the same time, if you were generally open to having your mind changed on those things, you just didn't
yeah,
know any better,
yeah,
and you would ask that question, you would get a
yeah,
significant change of like the reaction. So again, the opinion is only like a small amount of it. I think the kind of the vibe and the passion emotion that you pack into a tweet. I know you can't do too much. It's only 240 characters, but
yeah.
the the vibe you bring to a tweet is something to always consider because you're always gonna get that. I feel like you're gonna get that same quality
Yeah. So
back.
what, like, kind of what you put out, that's what you're gonna get. So yeah, I definitely Uh, I definitely think that. Now, this one's quite interesting. I do want to also bring about like personal issues. What do you think about personal issues stopping people from competing in a tournament? The big example of that is
Infiltration.
infiltration,
Yeah.
and we have there were this. I mean, I saw an article a long time ago. I think it was about a couple months ago when he was starting to come back. A guy was like, this infiltration shouldn't be bad because of blah 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 X, Y, and Z. And then you had infiltration do his interview with the Korean
Yeah.
IGN. I
So
actually, unfortunately, don't have a lot of that information because it's been lost. But what do you think about personal issues affecting an individual from participating in the tournaments? Something that doesn't happen at the tournament but outside the tournament.
there's an inherent flaw
Yeah.
with that, and it's the reason why no one will ever be happy with these results and decisions being made, and it's because you are putting people who have no business making moral and character decisions for people, having to make moral and character decisions for people. The people at Capcom have no experience, no education, no background, no diploma, nothing of any kind of value that determines they're capable and determine and they're worthy of dictating when a person or what their punishment should deserve. That doesn't really make any kind of sense. It doesn't make sense for me, somebody who doesn't have any kind of experience in any kind of field that's related to trauma and mental and all that. It makes no sense for me to cast that stone
Yes.
and determine what is worthy of what. So, in
Yeah.
my opinion, really all you can do. The problem is when you have a situation like this where literally never will you have more than half the people be happy
Yeah.
because of the inherent flaw of leaving the decision to the wrong
Wrong people.
people.
Yeah.
But when you have something like that, I feel like instead of determining instead of trying to nitpick like how the people who are unqualified should determine the punishment, I think there should be a system in place where qualified people determine the punishment because it's easier for them to understand the Capcom Pro Tour than it is for Yoshinori Ono to understand someone's mental state. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
far
That's
more easier. So for me, it's simply a matter of like if the courts and the judges and the law and everything else and therapy, whatever legality related thing is in question here, whatever that determines should be what is it.
yeah.
Because if
See,
you can't, that again and again, I know his case was very kind of blurry and it was
yeah.
kind
It
of
was. It was
unfounded on. There's a lot of
blurry.
things
Yeah.
that people still to this day
Don't
don't
know.
have
It's a
answers
lot of
on.
he said, she
So
said, and a lot of
when
people.
faced with something like this where there's truly no right decision, I mean, you could always just be safe and ban the guy, but there's no doubt that he brings in people.
Yeah.
He's a product and a pretty popular one at that, and a good one at that. Right? He posts a lot of views on his stream, for instance, as well. So with all that stuff being said, um, I don't blame them. I think it may have been, I don't know, I don't necessarily know what the right decision is here. I think it's a series of wrong decisions, just which one's the least wrong, right? And with that being said, I'm actually pretty indifferent. If he gets banned for a year or two, great. I'm glad that's what they came out down
Yeah.
to. But again, if it was my utopian level choice where I could decide the perfect world where this stuff is decided, the communities of like the people, the judge and the people are informed of
Yeah.
like his job, which is Street Fighter player,
Yeah.
and they could personally determine what they like okay, let's just say he's in a competitive sport.
Yeah.
Okay, judge, what do you think should be the ban on this sport until he can come
Yeah.
back?
Yeah. So
I mean,
someone that's in.
again,
Yeah.
perfect world, that's what they
Yeah.
should do. But unfortunately, we are past that.
Yeah.
It's now up to people who are unqualified to make the decision, and because that's the case, there's no answer. There's
Yeah.
no right answer, at least. There's definitely a multiple wrong answers. Some might be
Yeah.
less than others, but there's truly no correct decision here with that. It's just a series of bad decisions because the situation it's structured around isn't meant to be like the correct decision. It's just going to leave people on either side disgruntled. So that's my take.
Okay, so yeah, that's definitely a good take on that because again, we don't know what happened. I know everyone tries to fill in the blank to say I know what happened. The reality is
Yeah.
no one knows what happened. Infiltration was found guilty, but not guilty enough to go to jail. So, and so that's I mean that's all we know. He was convicted of something. I mean I don't know like the degree of levels of assault in the Korean court system because I'm not Korean. But it is what it is. I mean, he was able to compete at Evo. There was really, there was a lot of backlash for that. He's coming back to CPT. He's now going into Grand Blue. I'm of the assumption if you do something wrong, especially if it's in your personal life, Like you said, I mean, if we can get, it would be awesome if we can get the person or the judge or whatever to be able to make a ruling about what you should, how long you should stay out of this sport or whatever. That would be amazing. But I'm
Yeah.
always wanting to give a person a second chance. People make mistakes, unless you like flat out murder someone, like murder
Yeah.
someone, or like
Yeah.
yeah, I can still give you a chance, but like, if you murder someone,
Did you?
you're going to jail for a long time. So there is no like
Yeah, for
tournaments or
sure.
you murder someone, you're
Um,
molesting children or anything like that. You're going away
yeah.
for a long time. So well, it was
Did you want to do a Q&A? Because if you did want to do, and
uh
even if Chad doesn't have any questions, maybe me and you could put, because there are some things I
yeah.
might want to ask as a player, and some you might want to ask.
Okay,
Should we,
so
if
I know
that were the case, we should do that now
yeah,
so
I
we
was
can get
gonna say
some solid
it's not
questions in.
9 p.m. I don't know if you want to do like maybe like a
I have time
15
to do the Q&A. That's what
30.
I'm saying.
Okay,
If we do
okay,
it
okay,
now, we can
okay.
get some
So
questions
okay,
in.
so if you guys have any questions, no, feel free to ask about anything like player or to. We have one of the
One of each
greatest
here. Yep.
one of the greatest tos in
Equilibrium. We have equilibrium in here. One player and one
one
TO.
player, one to. One of the greatest tos in the Midwest. If you're in that area, check out his
Yes.
events, the Smash Run. I'm gonna have to
Thank
make.
you.
I'm gonna have
Smash
to
Rush. You're getting
Smash
better
Run.
though.
Smash
You
Run.
got close that time. That's okay. Well, we're out of business for a while, but thanks, man. Here, how about? I mean, just in case anyone funnels questions in, I'll go ahead and start. And so, uh, as a play, do you find playing in a team format more stressful because you have like more than just yourself to count on, or people? The fact that there are more people counting on you because you're part of a team effort. Do you find the amateur league more stressful than like a tournament like Texas Showdown may have been for you last year, for instance?
So, before I answer that, Jose has definitely put in a good chat, a question in the chat. We will get to
Okay.
that. Um, uh, we'll get to your question later. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
After I answer
Mine's
this
a good
question, yeah, that's definitely a good
ender.
question. That's more for you because since you're on the TO
How do
side of
you
things.
grow a scene?
Yeah, and so
Okay, yeah, so that's a big thing, right? Because there's
yeah,
two perspectives. The
yeah,
smaller one is how a player can grow their scene,
yeah,
but that's pretty simple.
uh,
You just have the player talk
yeah.
and spread the good word, encourage them to talk about it, have a mutual place for them to do things. But see, the thing is with when you say how to grow a scene, it's kind of like when someone comes up to you and asks you, well, how do I improve at this game? It's a very general thing, and it's filled with so many smaller aspects that it'd actually almost be easier to just tell you the things that you shouldn't do because that seems like a shorter list of things. But for me, a lot of it was trial and error. There were times when I was worried to try out new things, but I had to remember to myself that like the only way this improves is if I determine what is on the good side of the table and what's on the bad side. And the only way to do that was to actually do it because you could ask players and you could ask anybody you want and they could tell you whatever they want, but until you actually did something, you had truly no idea how it would go down. So a lot of trial and error. So I don't recommend banking too much on the quality at the beginning in favor of experimenting with some new ideas and this, that, and the other. But you have to remember that when you come with trial and error, you can't afford to be very passionate in the ideas you come up with because if they flop, you have to be very easily ready to get rid of them. They can't be something that you want to stick around and go, okay, well, how do I change? No, as to been move on
Okay.
from the idea. It didn't work. They didn't like the people didn't because I've
yeah,
tried. I've
yeah,
sat there and I've tried to alter ideas and I'm like, oh, this sounds like a really good idea. What if I do this? Like a 3 monitor setup, but the space didn't allow for it. So I tried moving the space and it furthered me into the trench and so it's respectable to learn when to drop an idea, even if you're happy or proud of the idea. Just drop it. And move on to the next thing. So that's a big one. But I also like to like funnel my community into different areas, right? I created a Discord for
yeah.
Smash Rush players, traction, right? And I kind of let that have its own little thing. But again, it's a series of smaller things, a lot of good decisions I had to make. But I guess if I could give you the big ones, the big things that matter, I would say the trial and error stuff. Make sure you try out new things all the time. Never really settle for one product that doesn't ever change. Try out new things. If they don't work, be quick, be hasty to get rid of them. That's a big one. What else? Let's think. Another one, have a good support system around you. A lot of this stuff just feels like it's just like, I mean, I pride myself in like being smart and like knowing this stuff, but there are times when I just needed the advice of many people, and I have a good support system of people where I have a good venue owner who I can seek advice from. I got a few assistants I can seek advice from, and all that as well. It's very very It's very important. But honestly, and this one is my most cherished one, I would say. And this actually doesn't necessarily about growing the scene, but if you're somebody who wants to grow a scene and being a TO, just raw recommendation, make sure you there's a certain level of like if you devote all of your energy, time, and mentality to that one thing, you're gonna be surprised on how gassed and how bland everything gets. So for me personally, one of the big things I noticed about upping my quality of my tournament was making sure I had a life any way coexist with the life I had when I was TOing. I had to make sure that there was this group I could talk to and these people and this environment I could talk to, that Smash Rush stuff did not become a thing we talked about.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
that was a group I have. And then there was a group I have that was all Smash Rush information, all TOing stuff, all group evolving scenes. And it actually helped with my perspective on things because when you get away from it and you look at it from like the when you because your buddies and all that, like if they don't really involve themselves, they'll know about it and they'll kind of know about it from like a spectator perspective, and that perspective is the most important because that's where the largest community is. It's the spectators. So a lot of my decisions kind of go through a system of like player then spectator then this is the level of importance that matters from the top to the least important. But yeah, again, there's so many smaller things. I just think just make sure you make the correct decision with each small thing and take them one decision at a time. But those are the big things I would say, and there's so much more. It would take a whole other episode to get into just how much, because it took me weeks and weeks and months and months to finally get an algorithm down that I liked, my assistants liked, the players liked, and my streamer and the venue liked. It took so many tries, but once I had figured the entire algorithm out and how it all went down and the smaller things as well. But in the meantime, what you can do what you can do, make sure you just are up to date on like certain skills and involved that people don't think of. Make sure you run a bracket well. Okay, if you have a
Yeah.
stream, don't put losers round one on stream. Okay, make sure you keep winners on stream. So make sure as you're doing this stuff, make sure as a TO you're doing the right. You must be doing the right. You have the right individual skills and stuff. That way you run a proper event. But I'm rambling. That's pretty much a lot of the bigger guys. But there's all
So,
types of stuff. So.
the add on to that one before I answer that question that you asked me, uh, when you started your Smash Rush, did I say it right this time?
Smash Rush.
Okay, okay, I was gonna call it Smash Run.
You're good. It's fine. You're good.
When you started it, how many how many people were you normally getting in when you
I
first
had
started?
16 the first
16,
Smash Rush.
the very first
hmm
Smash Rush.
now I get about 60-ish. Yeah.
How did that how did that process like? Did you change venues? Like, how did that process evolve from like the
No,
16
I
to
didn't
this?
actually change venues. Again, by the time I got 60 people, all of the bad ideas had been filtered out and all of the good ones had stuck around. So it was an entirely different product, but the capabilities in the sense of like I didn't have more stations to play on. I didn't have this or the other, but I just knew more about what I was doing. I wasn't put in situations where I made the wrong decision as much, and I wasn't surprised at like so if a monitor turns off on an accident, I had the rule set memorized and stuff. I was just better at my job, and I did everything. I made all of those correct decisions and everything else. So I didn't. I expanded, but in the sense of like I expanded, and this is going to be a corny thing. Knowledge. That was where the expansion came in the form of not get stayed in the same place in the same spot because that was structure the players needed because players don't do their research. I've noticed they really don't do their research at all. Um, they don't do the research at all. So I had to make sure I was at the same place, always saying the same message of this is the time, the place, and people even then would be a little confused on what was going on. So I made sure to keep the same structure but expanding. No, I didn't change anything at the actual.
Okay.
I didn't change anything physically. I just made sure I had a better understanding and knowledge, and I made sure to try out everything I could, and that would kind of help me figure out what to do and not to do. And I also got advice from other TOs as well on certain things that I knew. You can't really afford too much pride
Yeah, so
in
you
that
have to be
respect. So
willing to.
that's how I expanded. It was more mentally, but nothing physically had changed. No, not at all.
Okay, so yeah, you have to be willing to kind of humble yourself and seek
Oh yeah,
help from anybody and everyone. Okay, so
absolutely.
Okay, so back to this question. This is going to be
Yep.
this is a very very vulnerable question for me because it actually shares my headspace, and
This
I
is
don't
what we
like
should end on, really, because yeah, this would be a great way to end.
I try to hold on. Before we answer that, does anyone else have anything? I posted in the
Oh yeah,
chat.
now it's time to ask because I think that's a
Now it's
great
time to
question to end
ask
on.
because I'm going to end this question. We're going to end off on we're going to end the stream on this question in the podcast. I really appreciate you guys tuning it in. This is something that has been once again. It's been how many months in the making? One, uh, two. Actually, I can pull up my channel right now and see exactly when the other one was. the the last one that we did was. Let's check it out. Uh, when exactly it was. It was August the 1st, 2019. So that has been let's see. September, October, November, December, January, February, March. So it's been 7 months in the making. We have finally fulfilled the prophecy of actually recording a podcast. We were supposed to, CPT special didn't happen. Things happened with that. And I think we were supposed to do something else before that, but uh, it might probably be an I would say I was gonna say it'll probably be another 7 months before you get together, but then I was like I kind of don't want to say that because I don't want to
Hmm.
Speak that into that.
Who knows?
Yeah,
Don't speak into existence.
don't want to say
Very
that.
true.
So it could be another, it could be a month or two, I mean, because things especially what's going on now, we don't know like what's gonna happen like within the next couple of weeks. We could have some positive news. We could have some negative news. We could, Ono could come down one day
Oh yeah, it's
and
ever
be
changing.
like,
Who knows?
boom, CPT is over, and we definitely have to get on it and talk about that, like something like
Oh
that,
yeah.
because I would be sad, dude. Or more tournaments could be canceled, or the Smash scene or whatever could be like, boom, whatchamacallit canceled. Pro Smash Bro Tour canceled. Tekken World Tour canceled. Everything canceled. It's over. The end of all your entertainment is done. but
Yeah.
but yeah, okay. So, oh yeah, that sucks. Okay, never mind. I was looking at one of my messages. So, okay, okay. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and answer this question about
All right.
the pressure. Okay, so as someone that's actually been in high pressure situations against various top players and different players, like if you guys check out my channel, I did play Problem X at Texas Showdown last year. The year
I saw that. Yeah.
before that, I played JB. Now, Problem X beat me convincingly. It was one of my first time playing an individual like that, and so it was one of those things where it's like I just didn't know what to expect, so there was really no pressure for me. But when I played JB 2 years ago at Texas Showdown, I almost beat him, but it almost doesn't count. But when I was playing him, I just felt like I just knew I could beat him, like as a player. Like I was like, this is one of the top proceeds in America, but I still feel like I can beat this guy, and it definitely showed in my play, and definitely almost showed in me almost beating him. And so, um, this whole team format, yeah, is definitely different from me because to me, I feel like if I lose in my headspace, like I feel like I'm letting the team down, and I know I have like a strong team, and on top of that, it's like I feel like I'm being carried, man. Like that's just me. It's like I want to do well, not only for myself because not only for my city, but for myself as well because this is a perfect opportunity, you know, to showcase what I can do. And for me, having some of the stuff that issues that I've been having to deal with throughout SFL, as far as playing consistency, it's definitely as a player, it sucks. It sucks for me because it's like I feel like, man, it's like, dang, I feel like I know I could play better, but it's like I feel like pressure from trying to do well for my city, pressure for trying to do well for myself, and ultimately I put like way too much expectations, and it leads me to playing in a manner in which I'm just not comfortable. Yeah, comfortable being playing. And the sad part about this is like the way I qualified for the team was I wasn't actually an alt. I actually flat out won a tournament, and the tournament that I won was the second biggest one. And so uh, I actually earned my spot. It wasn't oh I've been placing well and I got put as an alt. I actually went in there and won a tournament against some of my most strongest rivals in the city, and I was able to go in there and actually win that tournament. And it was actually the first tournament of CE, so I had to on top. Not only did I have to deal with I had to kind of deal with not only did I have to deal with the players, I had to actually deal with a new version of the game as well, where they nerfed my character, and so certain things that worked back then didn't work then, and not to mention that day, the setups that I were playing on, I have a suspicion it was probably the PS4 that day because we're playing on PS4 Slim. It was a little bit laggy, so not only that, I had to deal with lag on the setups, and and so I had to overcome a lot just to qualify for the specific team, and so it when I don't play well, when I don't do well, like um, it really it really bothers me, and it really makes me upset, like because like I'm always beating myself about it, but in reality I should realize like, yo dude, like I qualified. Like why am I
Yeah.
like beating myself up? Like he dropped a crew battle for Smash a month ago. Oh dang. Dang. Yeah.
Man.
And so yeah, that's my headspace, man. When I lose, but I'm hoping tomorrow, like, I'll be in a better place, for sure. I definitely think I will be, especially after. For those of you that have been watch my Twitch stream, I'll be streaming here in a couple minutes. Like not, no,
Hey
yeah,
yo.
like gotta plug yourself. Best I can
For
do is
sure.
grow about it, yeah, for sure. Like that, and that's basically what I've been trying to do is grow for it, for sure, Jose. And so like that is definitely what I've been trying to do is just learn and just take that and say, you know what, I can't feel this way. I have to, continue
Yeah.
growing and being as a player. And yesterday I also got embarrassed on my stream too. So I got kind of cooked by XSK Samurai in a couple of sets.
Sending light into the fucking super, man. At least.
Bro, Stanley
Listen,
the Super,
listen though.
the triple shimmies, bro. I was
Yeah,
getting
that's
cooked,
crazy.
dog. I was like, bro, I was getting like cooked. I was like,
Yeah.
dang.
Here, here. Thank you so much for having me, though, man.
But
This was fun.
that's gonna be the podcast, guys.
Man.
Do you have anything that you would like to say, or like anything you want to shout out, or anything like you want
Yeah.
to plug?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
go ahead and plug yourself, and go ahead and plug
Uh,
yourself on the stream, even though your platform technically
if
is probably more
if
bigger
you
than
like what
mine.
you saw here, if you like what you saw here, wait for in September. September 2020, we'll be back with episode 3.
No, don't say September
Yeah.
2020. No, no, don't say it.
Yo. Oh no, man.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of back and forth. It's good because again, as a player, there are some things I just don't have a perspective on and a knowledge on. And as a TO, I can provide some knowledge on some of like the inner working stuff that again, a lot of guys kind of don't really
Oh,
know
now,
about because we don't
oh,
really broadcast that kind of information. So
real quick, I wanted to get like you mentioned on my stream. Like, just go ahead and do this real quick. I never did get to answer you. Since you're a TO, like, what would you personally ban an individual for? That's what I forgot. So I
what would
forgot that.
I ban an
Yeah,
individual
yeah,
for?
yeah,
Oh, I'll be quick about it
yeah.
so
Just
we
be
can
really
wrap
quick
it
about
up.
it. So
All
we
right,
wrap it
what
up.
would I ban an individual for? See, that's interesting because I don't think I've ever actually previously thought about this yet. Um, See, I think there's different levels because there's an immediate ban where it's like you like physically harm somebody, right?
Yeah.
And then there's like this is a pretty suspicious thing. Let me contact the venue owner. Let me
Dark
contact my
Magician.
assistant TOs. Let me kind of get a good perspective on what everyone thinks, and then we'll come to a decision together. Those are the two different types of ways I'd ban somebody. For instance, again, if somebody came up and like a fight broke out, right?
Yeah.
Whoever started, that's a you ain't coming back ever. Easy. Okay, and that is an example of like a permanent ban. If someone tweeted something in horrible taste, something like that, or something along the lines of like again they said something on those lines. So here, okay, you know what? I actually have a simple answer for you,
Yeah.
and
So.
maybe I should be more complex with it. Physical action would be an immediate ban, but words would be a probable ban, but I would definitely consult some people. Again, my assistants first. So
Yeah.
that's what I would do. And then, yeah, again, so words again, depending on what was said, it would increase your likelihood of getting banned. But I would always consult my assistants and the venue owner, and just anybody else that is involved and see what they say. And yeah, that would be what I would do.
Also, what about stalking? Cause man,
Hmm.
y'all Smash players be
Stalking.
y'all Smash players be on some weird stuff. I heard a story like in one of my local Smash
Stalking.
scene. Like there's this
That.
chick that plays Smash, and there was this guy that had like a real like a crush on her, and like I think he's like he might be like mentally not like mentally challenged or something like that, but like mentally socially
He
awkward,
went all there. Yeah.
socially awkward. And this man apparently was like crying in like he lost a tournament and he was crying in this girl's car, and like he just walked into the girl's car, she wasn't even in there, and it was like crying and crying, sitting there crying and bawling out his eyes and whatnot, and they had to get the dude out, and I'm pretty sure that that guy's kind of banned, but like JTAG, I don't know who it is. I just heard this through Jose. I don't know who this is. I just heard this through the homie who's a very good Smash commentator. I don't know if you met him. Banjo. Have you know Banjo?
No, I haven't. No.
He's a Smash commentator from Houston, but
Yeah.
I heard that through him,
Well, JTAG does live in Texas.
and
Oh,
so
I know,
I don't
you
know. I
know,
mean, I don't know about that, but
no. JTAG lives in Texas. I know that for sure.
yeah,
But yeah, again, I would hope I'd never be put in that situation. But
yeah.
if the eyes of the law determines you punishable, I think Smash Rush determines you punishable. I mean,
Okay,
you
yeah.
know,
So yeah.
so
So okay, that's
all right, man.
definitely a good answer.
Yeah,
That's definitely an
yeah.
answer that most people could say. If
Hmm.
if you're guilty in the eyes of the law, then you're guilty in tournament. So
I'm definitely below the law.
yeah.
Smash Rush is not above the law. So, so I definitely
I
you know.
honestly I think that's probably a good approach that TO should have. It's like if it's if if it's one thing that's not affecting the law, then you guys should be okay. Like, uh, but just yeah, you should be okay.
For
Yeah,
sure, for sure.
that's what I say. As long as you're obeying the law, because well, that like I said, that coronavirus thing with those people yelling that's one of those things where free speech doesn't supersede um
For sure.
things because yeah.
I'm getting basically pulled out my door here. Can I give my final thoughts to
Okay,
you?
yeah. Go ahead, get your final thoughts. Yeah, right, okay, yeah. Go ahead, go
Yeah.
get the
So
final thoughts.
again, to kind of get back, thanks
Yeah,
again, everyone, so much for watching. I'll try to be better. And we'll get back here sooner than in September. I'm sure. I don't want to will it to existence, but uh, again, Kira FGC on everything. I'd make sure to put it everything that I'm on. If Kira FGC does not pop up, I am not on that platform. So, and again, Smash Rush. Unfortunately, we're gonna be off for a few weeks because of the virus stuff, but I'm sure I'll be back running the weekly once again in Michigan every Saturday.
check them out.
But yeah, thanks so much for having me. Again, it's a unique perspective to be able to go back and forth with a player and a TO. So, and hopefully we'll be back under some better terms
Yeah,
because I mean, again, it's a bit. We had our laughs and our jokes, but it is based on a pretty deep, dark thing
yeah.
that we're kind
What's
of having to
happening
deal
right
with
now?
right now. So,
So
yeah, that'll do it for me, man.
that's it, guys. You heard the
Yeah,
man. Follow him. If you haven't, follow me at everything is now consistent at Narukami 2D, Narukami 2D Twitch, Narukami 2D YouTube, Narukami 2D Twitter. I will be also streaming on Twitch Street Fighter 5 within the next 30 minutes, so you guys come check me out. I guess that's all I have to say, and
yeah.
we
Take care, guys.
will
Thanks so much for watching, guys.
hopefully see you again. Alrighty, bye.